Apis mellifera, better known as honeybee, is an insect from the family Apidae, mostly recognized for being the principal pollinator of crops and plants in nature, and its use in apiculture for honey production. The formal research on bee communication started in 1914 with the works of Carl von Frisch on bee vision that later on would lead to several research on flower evolution and further research on bee communication as well. Von Frisch's works demonstrated that bees could actually perceive colors, debunking the hypothesis existing at the time that only human beings had the ability to perceive colors. As we can see in the slide, this is how people at the time thought bees saw the world, versus how von Frisch thought bees saw the world. Von Frisch, through an experiment, could demonstrate that the bee spectral sensitivity to color went from 600 nanometers to 300 nanometers, meaning that bees could not see red light nor infrared light, but could actually see ultraviolet light. Compared with the human spectral sensitivity to color, the only difference is that we can perceive red, but we cannot perceive ultraviolet light as they do. Later, in 1967, von Frisch would research on bee communication and would find out that one way bees communicate is through what he called dances, in which they could send messages and share information like food location.
Thank you, Albert. Now this is Angie, and I'm going to continue with an evolutionary context of bees. Don't you wonder where and when did the dance language of bees evolve? Well, bees evolved from Apoidea approximately 140 to 110 million years ago. The oldest known eusocial bee fossil is Cretotigonia prisca. It was found in Cretaceous New Jersey amber and is estimated to be 65 to 70 million years old. The fossil indicates that sociality most likely existed in bees during this period, and this is a key prerequisite for the evolution of dance communication. It was long believed that apis evolved and diversified in tropical Asia, but bees fossils discovered in France and Germany in recent years, in combination with the current distribution of honeybee species, suggest that the center of origin was in Europe. Because all extant species use the dance language, we can be confident that their common ancestor also used a dance communication. As a fact, all species dance to communicate the location of food resources and nest sites. Bees have evolved during time. The first species to diverge was the dwarf honeybee. Here in the presentation, you can see it on the top. Later on, appeared the giant honeybee. Here you can compare the huge difference in size between a regular honeybee and a giant honeybee. Finally, the cavity nesting honeybees evolved. Those are the more derived species and the ones found in Costa Rica. Honeybee dances. Perhaps the most intriguing aspects of their biology. It's also one of the most fascinating behaviors in animal life, performed by a worker bee that has returned to the honeycomb with pollen or nectar. The dances, in essence, constitute a language that tells other workers where the food is. The components of the round dance. When a food source is very close to the hive, less than 50 meters, a bee performs a round dance. She does so by running around in narrow circles, suddenly reversing direction to her original course. She may repeat the dance several times at the same location or move to another location on the comb to repeat it. After the round dance has ended, she often distributes food to the bees following her. A round dance, therefore, communicates distance, close to the hive in this example, but not direction. Food sources that are an intermediate distances between 50 and 150 meters from the hive are described by the sickle dance. This dance is crescent-shaped and represents a transitional dance between the round dance and waggle dance.
Thank you very much, Angie. And yes, now I'm going to talk about the tail wagging dance, or also called the wagging dance. In this type of dance is used when the food source is 50 meters away from the hive. So the bees run and trace a semicircle alternately left and right, ending each lap with a straight run back to the starting point. You can see it here on this picture. In the straight run, the bee shakes its abdomen from side to side so it traces like curves, so everyone knows it is tail wagging dance. This is the main difference from the round dance. Also, another important aspect on this dance is the number of wags. Because if the number of wags is large, then the food source distance is small. And if the number of wags is small, then distance is large. So how do they know how far is the food source? So here in this picture you can see like a time distance conversion, and it says that 1 second is equally for 1 kilometer. So the amount of time the bee takes to complete the straight run, it is going to be the distance of the food source from the hive. Finally, also, if the dance run is vertically downward, it means the food source is on direction to the sun. And if it is vertically upward, it means the food source is on the opposite direction of the sun. So the other bees know where is located the food source.
Hi, this is Valeria, and I'm going to continue talking about bee dances. The next one is called the massage dance. The purpose of this dance is to request a massage. When a bee is feeling sick or tired because of a long day of work, she notifies other bees about her need for a massage by performing this dance. How they do it? Well, they bend their heads in a certain angle with their mandible open and their tongue out. In this way, when the other bees notice this dance, they will know exactly what they have to do, which is to give a massage. This massage consists of pulling the bee's leg joints with a mandible or antenna and touching the lateral sides of the bee. The bee who requested the massage will feel better to go back to work. With this dance, we can see that as well as humans, bees need to have relaxing moments once in a while in order to keep working. The last dance that we have is called the DVAV dance, which stands for dorsoventrally abdominal vibrations. The DVAV dance is performed by the field bees when the queen cell is being sealed and after the emergence of the new queen. To clarify, the queen cell or royal cell is where the new queens develop from egg to larvae and pupae. In the right side of the slide, you can see a picture of some queen cells. During this dance, the bee places her legs on the body of another bee and makes 5 to 6 shaking up and down abdominal movements. Also, there's a slight wagging forward and backward. Sometimes, bees also perform this dance when they are working, but it is not so common. This dance can signify excitement. That is why it is also called the joy dance.
Thank you very much, Valeria. And yes, these were the 4 different types of dances that the bees perform. Now we are going to look at this video that explains a little bit more about the round and waggle dance.
You've probably heard the buzzing of a bee, but did you know that one way that bees communicate is through dancing? That's right, dance. Well, dance plus a few other cues. Bee dances share information about food like nectar or pollen, water, and tree resin, and about possible nesting sites. For example, when a honeybee finds flowers, she flies back to her nest to tell other bees where food can be found. She brings a sample of the nectar or pollen with her to share with her nestmates. By dancing a certain path and direction and using vibration, sounds, and scents, the returning bee tells other bees where to go. The first dance is called the round dance. The round dance conveys that food is nearby, within 165 feet. To communicate this, the bee runs around in small circles, suddenly reversing direction to her original course. And remember that nectar the honeybee gathered? During or after the round dance, she often gives food to the other workers so they can taste the quality. Bees can do this with food or water. Simple enough. The round dance tells other forager bees that food is somewhere nearby and the bees can find it. But when food is more than 500 feet away, a bee has to communicate direction and distance to the food. For this, bees use what we call the waggle dance. In this dance, the honeybee runs straight ahead for a short distance and returns to the starting point, forming a semicircle. Then she runs through the straight course again. This time, she makes a semicircle in the opposite direction. While running the straight line course of the dance, the bee's body waggles back and forth energetically from side to side. The honeybee also beats its wings to produce a buzzing sound. So how do the other forager bees know how far away the food source is? The amount of time the bee takes to complete the straight run portion of the dance indicates a distance. The further away the food is, the longer it takes the bee to complete the waggle run. For every 1 second of the dance, the food is approximately 1 kilometer away. To get directions to the food, the bees can't just pull out their smartphones. Instead, the followers watch the direction of the dancing bee's waggle run. In the hive, up means towards the sun. If the waggle dance is straight up, the food is straight towards the sun. If the food is in another direction, the bee runs at an angle that matches the direction of the food outside. Outside, follower bees look at the position of the sun and fly the same angle that the dancing bee showed them on the inside of the nest. Bees are so good at this. They can even account for the movement of the sun any time of day and year. All this dancing does pay off, and not just for the bees. About 1/3 of the food people eat comes from plants that depend on bees, which means we all benefit from this fascinating form of bee communication, the round and waggle dances.
After looking at this video, we can see how amazing the bees are, that even though they don't have ears or can see very well, they found a way to communicate through dances, so the other bees can understand every detail, as it is the distance, the angle, the position, everything. They are so good at this that it can even account for the movement of the sun, no matter the time of the day or year, as said in the video. So it is very interesting, because I believe that everyone in a moment of our life, we watched the bees performing their dances without even noticed that they were communicating something. So in my case, and after knowing this information, every time I look a bee flying near a hive, I'm gonna take a look to see what kind of dance is the bee doing, and trying to locate where the food source is, and see if this information helped me to understand what the bees are communicating.
Thank you very much, Esteban. Besides dance communication, pheromones are also part of the bee communication system. According to Carlson and Lusher, 1959, pheromones are chemical signals released by a sender into the environment to convey specific messages to members of the same species, in which they release stereotype and adaptive responses. One way in which honeybees spread pheromones is through a process called fanning. In this process, The bee raises its tail and segregates a pheromone called Nasonov pheromone, while the bee quivers its wings to spread the pheromone in the air. This pheromone is segregated by the Nasonov gland, located very close to the tail, as we can see in the picture. The message sent in this process can mean "let's gather together," or it could help young bees find the entrance of the hive. The footprint pheromone is segregated by a gland called the tarsal gland. This pheromone is segregated by the worker bees and the queen mainly to guide other bees home. The alarm pheromone is released to defend the hive from other insects. This pheromone is segregated by the mandibular gland, and it's triggered once they bite other insects. If we come across bees, we would rarely get bitten to warn us. Instead, they would fly around us, and if we keep on bothering them, they would sting us. And once this happens, the bee releases other pheromones that tell the other bees to start the attack.
Thank you so much, Alfred, for your explanation. This is Carla Marin, and I'm going to wrap up everything that we have learned so far. So in order to conclude, I'm going to answer 4 questions. The first one is what we have learned. The second one is what is the difference between humans' communication and bees' communication? Then why are bees so important for our environment? And finally, how can we help the bees? So today my classmates explain you about 2 ways of communication that the bees have. The first way is dances. We learn about 4 types of dances. The first one is a round dance that is one of the honeybees' movements used to share information concerning a food source within 50 meters to the hive. We also learn about the tail wagging dance. That is a type of dance used when the food source is 50 meters away from the hive. Also, the massage dance, that is a dance performed by the bees when they are sick or they are tired. And finally, the DVAV, that is performed when the queen is ill or after the emergence of the new queen is about to happen. For the second type of communication, of the second way of communication, we'll learn about the pheromones, that are chemical signals released by a sender into the environment to convey specific messages to members of the same species. Alfred explained about 3 different pheromones that were the fanning, the footprint pheromone, and also the alarm pheromones. Okay, for the second question, that is what is the difference between human communication and dance communication? So the bees use body movements to communicate with one another. They also use pheromones, as Alfred explained you before. But in contrast, humans' communication consists of signals. So signals are gestures or sounds that have some meaning to those using them. So when humans want to communicate something, we just say what we want to express. But bees, on the other hand, what they do is to dance in some way, according on what they want to express. So, for example, the massage dance, if they feel sick or if they are feeling tired, they do that kind of dance so they can express to the other bees the way that they are feeling. So that it's basically the difference that humans and bees have in order of the way of communication. For the third question, we have why are bees so important? I thought it was necessary to talk just a little bit about this because bees play a really important role in our environment and for humans too. The 2 main reasons why is because they are perfect pollinators. I have a statistic from the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United States, and it says that approximately 80% of all flowering plants are specialized for pollination by animals, mostly insects. And as we know, bees are insects.
So imagine how important are bees in the production of what we eat every day, what our body needs in order to be healthy. And the second reason why is because the production of honey. As we know, honey is a delicious food, but it's also necessary to produce different types of medicines. And as the last question, we have how can we help the bees? So I found different things that we can do, but one that caught my attention was this fill your garden with bee-friendly flowers. Who does not love flowers? And I think that we can choose flowers that help bees in order to have food source. And as we are helping the bees, we are also decorating our garden. So I think this way of helping the bees, is an easy one and a pretty one that we can implement in our daily lives. So we hope that you like our presentation, that you enjoy everything that we learned, and thank you so much for your attention.